Hi, Jeannie Gillette, 1606 South Taylor Circle in Bayfield. I don't know who prompted it, but I really appreciated the pack of information we got about the town. I think we got it last week, and I really liked it. I hope you will continue that in the future. I liked having the calendar and all the information. So I just wanted to express my thanks.
Thank you, Jeannie.
You're welcome.
Is this my turn?
Sure.
Right, 3 minutes. I live on 542 West North Street.
State your name for the record, please. Just so we could, it's all recorded.
My name is Teddy Jack, and I live on 542, and I wished all of you guys would use your microphones too. You're the mumblingest bunch I ever seen. But that's not why I'm here. The guys with the State Farm Insurance guys have painted lines in their driveway, and the only way out of some of them parking spaces that are up in front of the building is to back out into traffic. And I know you're not supposed to do this because when my daughter was 16 years old, she left Bayfield heading towards Durango, just got her driver's license, and she forgot something. She pulled into the RV park, and there was no cars coming in either direction, and she backed out and come back this way, and a highway patrolman give her a ticket for that, backing out into traffic. And she come home crying and everything. I said, it's no big deal. You don't need to cry about it. But they scared her about half to death. So I know what that law is. I learned. And they've got their lines so that their cars are parked there. When I come up that back street out at West North Street, I have to be almost out in traffic to see past them, to see what's coming. And there's so many cars now, I'm afraid to back up once you commit yourself, because there's somebody going to be parked behind me. And it's a bad situation both ways. And I travel that road more than anybody in town. My neighbor said, Ted, you really burn the road up. You go by 10, 12 times some days. And I said, well, if I need to go to the hardware store, that's what I do. And I asked the police chief about it, and he said the laws they're enforcing are the Colorado revised statutes. And most of them laws have a fine and a court thing that has to be done. And this is made just a setup to generate money to give to the town of Bayfield. It's a way of taking money away from the poor people and giving it to the rich people. Bayfield used to be a rich little town. They didn't need to do these things to get by. There are some areas in Colorado that have gotten organized, and they actually have a relief fund for old veterans and people like me, and they'll help pay my traffic fines in their town or their county. And I have the newspaper article to back this up. And it's just a matter of time until there's a wreck over here. And when that happens, good possibility it's going to be me. There's more people on the road than ever before, driving faster than they've ever been. And it's something I'm trying to change my plan and come out over here where the flashing light is, and I have better vision, But after driving up and down that road for 40 years, my family moved in on that street in 1962. And after high school, I went into the military, and I didn't come back for 10 years. Now I own my father's house, and I've been living down there for 28 years this time. I lived 11 years on Mesa Avenue, and 3 years on South Street. So I figure I have as big as interest in this town as anybody. And I suppose my 3 minutes are probably up. I appreciate you guys. And I don't ask for a lot of things from anybody. I'm my own man. I make my own jobs. I didn't ever have to have a government job. I made my own jobs and fed my family and paid for my houses most of the time. And I've worked for some of the biggest in Peter Kiewit, Brown and Root, some of the biggest construction companies in the world, and I've worked for the guys, the one-man backhoe and dump truck guy. I was a welder by trade, one of my trades. I spent 15 years with my own business on Main Street. I owned a city block on Main Street, and me and my family, me and my little brother bought the family business and run it for 15 years. And I'm not happy with some of the things that happen in this town. Things change so fast, I don't even know what happened. You know, there's three kinds of people: those that make things happen, those that watch it happen, and those that wonder what's happened. And I fit into all three of them categories from time to time, you know. But I appreciate you tolerating me. I know that I was a sergeant in the Army. I turned 20 in Vietnam with 20 people under me, and I did 2 tours. But that was so my big brother wouldn't have to go. And that's who I am,
Thank you, Teddy.
and I'm not as dumb as I look.
Oh.
You know?
Are there regulations that control parking spaces on private property or private businesses? Do we have rules that cover that? How many spaces you can have or where they are?
That would be a community development director.
They said they had permission, they put the lines where the city told them.
Would that be right?
By the city, whether it was an engineer, or law enforcement, or the mayor, I don't know, who they were referring to.
So
Town of Bayfield.
private parking spaces it depends on where they're at. Yes, it is regulated by any new development.
Okay, but is that a new development, where State Farm is? They're on there.
It's not a new development.
Right.
I don't,
But the town probably didn't tell them where to put the parking space lines?
well, the parking has been head in for a number of years.
Forever,
You know,
yeah.
if you would like us to look into that,
I'm just curious. I'm not going to take up your time to look into it. I just want to know
well, it's
what covers it. You know, how it's regulated.
the head-in parking has been there. If they went through a development, they did do some building and improvements, but that's not necessarily site development. That would require some different parking, but they have every right, somewhat of a designated right for years to head-in parking.
Head-in parking.
I do know that the sight distance coming out of North Street's
So what is?
hard to see around those cars.
It is.
Oh. Well, it's hard to see around those cars parked on a diagonal on Mill Street. If you're pulling out some of those side roads, I'm coming from Pine River Shares, I mean, you just have to hold your breath and hope nobody's coming too quickly through there.
So there isn't any kind of law or ordinance or regulation that they can't back out onto Bayfield Parkway?
Well, if you're looking for a law enforcement requirement, they have to yield to oncoming traffic.
Okay.
I mean, that I know.
Yeah, there's improper backing, there's other things, but I can't enforce anything until they hit the public roadway. Stuff that's on the private property, there's 3 things I can enforce. That's DUI, no insurance, and reckless driving. Outside of that, improper backing on private property, I can't enforce.
Okay, no, I'm now just curious, because I pulled it up and I'm looking, and they would, if they pulled into, they would have to back out onto the
they do.
parkway. And so I'm just trying to understand.
It'd be less like backing out of your driveway. You
Okay.
still have to
Yep.
yield to oncoming traffic.
Yep.
Okay.
Any other general public input? Okay, I'll close the public input, and next would be the approval of the agenda. Does the board have any, anything they want to change on the agenda?
Not me.
Now, Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as posted.
I'll second.
Got a motion and a second, any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Katzos.
Yes.
Trustee Hartz.
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro.
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin.
Yes.
And Mayor Ah.
You forgot me.
Oh, sorry, Brenna. I'll get ya.
But I'm a yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Brenna, yes. Okay.
You situated over there?
Not used to the Zoom.
I know. I know. Something didn't sound right with my end either. That's why I stopped.
Thank
Keep
you.
them to yourself.
Correct.
Town manager job description. Which was in our packet. Does the board have any interim classification changes?
I felt like the job description, when I reviewed it, was very muddled and commingled the manager's responsibilities with the town planning role and then also the HR role, but it didn't follow in any sequential format. And so I had made a suggestion to Katie and Marie that maybe we look at a different format and have the planning director and then also the HR director's roles separated and maybe set up as addendums. That led to a discussion about an interim job description, but other than the formatting of the current job description and the fact that it's got the commingled two other major job roles included, I didn't think was a good idea.
I think what's hard when looking at the job description, and I was just looking at the one that was provided for Eagle County, it's hard to understand. I know that we had a community development director that we are trying to rehire. I know that we have and haven't had HR at different times. And so when I'm looking at this, I'm wondering if we didn't have a public works director. Is that something that would have been in the job description for the town manager to assume those responsibilities? So I wasn't really sure what the responsibilities were for the town manager to assume if it was in the absence of some of the positions that are on our organizational chart. And I know our org chart has changed, because does the town manager then become the parks director if we don't have a parks director, or the finance director? So I think calling out those two positions is where I did get a little confused, but I'm not as familiar with town administrator job
I
description.
actually think it's in your municipal code, and I guess I'm using the code book as a prop, so. If you would, I mean, typically any director position that's not filled, the town manager is going to have to take that over. It doesn't matter if it's finance or anything. That would be the town manager's role to fill in
Okay.
and at least, provide assistance for that until that's filled either temporarily, and the town manager has the authority to hire somebody in a temporary position. We've done that in the past for other positions.
Oh, I understand that, but I think where I was confused, where it says act as human resource director, when I thought that was Marie's title, so I wasn't sure.
So this was, I actually had to find this, I didn't get a job description like this when I started. And so I finally found this in some of Chris LeMay's information. You'll see it's October 2020. That's when I found it. And so at the time, we didn't have a community development director or HR director.
So I guess when I'm looking, if we want to use this, because that's what we're kind of adjudicating right now, would we want to modify that? Because right now, we're not hiring a town manager who'd also act as a human resources director. So that's all, if we're going to use this, I was starting to wonder what Marie's job is, if town manager's also doing that. That's just where if there was a line in here that said, in the absence of director positions on the at the organizational chart at the time,
Sure.
that the town manager or administrator, whatever the term is we're using, would act in those roles until they are replaced.
Yep.
That just makes more sense to me. Again, it's just, this is from 2020. I also had a question on the education and experience, because when I'm looking at the town of Eagle, and I'm looking at ours, I'm wondering why they're requiring a master's degree and a minimum of 10 years experience, whereas we're requiring a bachelor's degree and minimum of 5 years experience. I don't know what the, I would hope that we would have a experienced person come into this position who would have more education and experience in the job to pick up where we are right now.
So I don't know what happened when they hired Chris LeMay,
Yeah.
but that was probably, they may have determined that there is a certain standard that they wanted, and if they didn't find somebody, they may have lowered the standard. And I
Okay.
know Chris is certainly, has a master's, and he's, you know, far more than this was, but at the time, that may be what you're looking for when you can't find somebody that has a master's degree.
Oh, well, if this is what we're planning to use, I would like to reconsider the
Yep.
education requirement for it, just based upon what other job descriptions have for the minimum education and experience requirements. And I'm happy to discuss that if the board has other opinions on that. Just,
I kind of like that it says a bachelor's degree and it prefers, but a master's degree is preferred. It leaves our choices open more. I guess I could go either way with it, but I'm okay with that, personally. I do see that, you know, taking out the human resources director and well, at this point, we need to leave the planning stuff in there because we don't have a planner.
Yeah, I think I'm more interested in, I agree with you, Mr. Mayor, that the bachelor's degree in public administration, master's preferred, I would agree with that. I think the years of experience are far more concerning to me. So I don't feel like 5 years is enough experience as a town manager. I'd like to see more experience. And it can be accumulative, where they've been in all departments. Maybe they've been a planner, maybe they've been an HR director, but it's accumulative towards the overall skill of a town manager.
Well, it does kind of say that, because it says management experience, including supervision of finance, community development, law enforcement.
Right, right. I was just making the point for the public.
I do like in the Eagle job description where they say that they're looking for somebody that's used to managing a workforce. Now, they say 75 to 85 staff, which is more than we have, but I think that I think it's an important qualification to have managed a staff of something close, at least equivalent, because managing staff is a really tough job. Not everybody can do it. And that's, you know, I think I like that requirement in there, that they have that kind of an experience.
I agree.
Any other comments on that?
No, I just said the same one as Lori about whether or not it was included, act as human resource in lieu of not having one. And also the planner. That was the only thing I saw. It is a little muddled, too.
Whoever was speaking, I can't hear you.
I said it is a little muddled too, and I agree with Lori. I read it the same way. In the absence of the human resource director or the community planner, the town manager would act in that capacity. But I don't see a reason to single those out, just like Katie said, you know, she
Right.
would, that position would cover any position that's, any management position that was empty.
Do you think with all the bullet points, oh, sorry, Brenda.
Brandon, go ahead. Oh,
The verbiage, sorry, I can't tell when there's a spot for me to.
I know.
stand and say it.
Just speak up when you think it's time, and I'll try and hold everybody else off. It's hard to see what you're doing there, too.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, what if we just change the verbiage of oversight of? Because in all actuality, town manager is overseeing those departments anyways, and if you just change the verbiage to oversight, then we're good. You leave it in there, the HR piece and the.
Or we could take it out because the first point, manage and supervise all departments and offices. You're managing all departments.
What's easiest.
Yeah. Either way.
Brenna, did you hear Lori's suggestion about that?
No, she was hard to hear as well.
Do you want to state that again, Lori, about how to address that?
Yeah, I think if we just had,
Along those lines, if you guys wouldn't mind speaking into your microphones, because I'm hearing, as Mr. Jack said, I'm just hearing a lot of mumbling, and I can't hear what it is you're trying to communicate. So, thanks for doing that.
can you hear me okay? Because if I get any closer to the mic,
You'll eat it.
I'm, okay, I'm sorry. So I will just look at the microphone then. I was thinking if we just said, in the absence of or act as any vacant position that's within the organizational chart, because that chart could change. And so we don't want to list every single position that the town manager would be overseeing or taking over in the interim. What I wanted to say also, since there's so many bullet points, maybe if we could relate the bullets that are to budget and finance, some that are to training and exercise, some that are to overseeing staff, it might be an easier way to read the bullets so that they all stay. However, it's just a little better organized.
Lori, did you see the Grand Lake format that I sent out? You didn't see that. It literally starts out with general statement of duties. This is pulled from the ordinance. So it states that, and then it talks about what the town manager is responsible for. And then it goes down and it itemizes essential duties, administration, and breaks it down. And I felt like this was a clear way to look at it, because you look at all the bullet points and they just run into each other, I think.
Yeah, I mean, all these are the duties. I just think that the previous job description from Chris LeMay could have also been cleaned up. So it's not throwing any shade on anyone, but it's just a lot of bullets and it was hard to read. So I think, I mean, clearly someone who wants this job is reading all the bullets and I guess they're figuring it out. But since we were asked to review, I think it would just be easier to comprehend if all the budget things were in one place, all of the oversight of departments were in another,
So are you asking Marie to go through this and basically do that for the interim, or for the town manager, or for both?
Actually, I think we need to do both. I think we need to have an interim job description, but we need to be prepared to have maybe even that interim say, well, I think I'd like to apply for this role and be apply to be the town manager. So we have to have both, because the bulk of the actual town manager's role, I think we have to have that identified, and then have an interim, and really, Katie, I'm going to kind of need your help with that, because an interim, what do we back burner? Just so they can be here to be a bridge while we interview and hire other people. So I think we need both, is my opinion.
I'm not quite understanding why the job description would be different for the interim than the permanent position. I mean, aren't they just sort of filling in until we get the permanent position? Don't they have the same responsibilities while they're filling that position?
Yes, and most of
That's
them
how I
all
feel.
have town manager, well.
They
all
should,
They all
yeah.
have town manager experience. They've all been town managers. They're just, it's either closer to a retirement
That's
job.
incorrect.
or something.
Anybody can apply. So you need to be aware that anybody can apply for these positions. You are going to determine, based on the job description, who Marie's going to either select out, or you get them all and you decide who you're going to interview. Because really, this is your hire. This isn't anybody else's.
I just don't see the point of having two different job descriptions myself.
Well, if you look at the bulk of the job description that we have now, and then you look at the essential functions for the interim, it's reduced. It captures the main points, but it's not
So
the same body.
So I'm going to address that based on my
Okay.
experience. So
Please do.
my experience as an interim, my goal is to bridge that gap between the last town manager and the next town manager. So it's very short term. Your town manager that you hire should have a long focus, a strategic ideas, basically looking towards the future. So there is going to be a difference in what you're asking, the difference between an interim and a town manager.
Yes. Yeah.
And the board has to understand that, that there may be two different job descriptions in what the expectation is. Because if you expect your interim to start doing a strategic plan or, land use changes, that's not what your interim should be doing. That's what your town manager should be doing.
Exactly.
Right, they're basically steering the ship for a short period of time.
I've worked for a national recruiter, and we've done interim placement and then also permanent placement, and they've always had two job descriptions because it's not the same full role. So that's just been my experience.
Well, and I don't want to jump ahead, but the next bullet point did state that KRW is going to work with you all to come up with that job description for recruiting for the town manager. So not to say that we can't work on that, but they're going to meet with you, right, to go over what your goals are moving forward and what you would like in that job description.
But it doesn't hurt to have kind of a good system layout so that you're going to spend a lot of money working with that, or you can at least given us enough guidance to go forward with that, and at least give KRW something to go on.
Yeah, I agree.
So I guess maybe we'll just start at the very bottom. How many years of experience do you want an interim? And how many years of experience do you want a town manager, just so we at least have some idea where to start? And
Personally, I like 5 years for an interim. Again, they're just kind of shoring things up until we get somebody in place. And I feel like a permanent town manager, I'd like to see 10 years, personally.
I think I'd probably like to see 5 years, at least 5 years for both, and 10 years preferred. Maybe something like that.
I'm probably more inclined to go with that.
so you want to speak into the microphone so that the attorney
I
and
thought I was there. I'm
It's
probably
hard to
more-
tell sometimes.
I'm probably more inclined to go with the 5 and the 5, and then the 10 preferred.
experience.
I didn't hear you, Mayor.
I said I'm probably more inclined to go with the 5 years experience for both the interim and the town manager, and then with a 10 preferred.
I'm happy if it just helps us move on. Because I think the more important thing is going to end up being what they present to us in an interview. So I'm happy to go with 5, 5, 10 preferred. Was there a separate interim job description?
No.
Okay, sorry, I was making sure I wasn't missing something.
No.
It's the Eagle. Marie had it on our desk.
That is for the interim job
Yeah,
description? Oh,
as an
For
example.
Eagles, yeah.
As an
Okay, thank
example.
you.
Okay.
I would like to see all the bullet points, though, organized better. It's, honestly, it's hard to read.
Okay. So I can definitely take a stab at it and have Katie look at it too, make sure we're covering everything, and then I can send it out to you all for your review, and you can let me know what to change, or if it's good, then we can just continue on.
Katie, may I ask, since you know the difference between being the long-term town manager and understanding what an interim would do, can we possibly learn what are some of the things that we can maybe wait on doing? Like if there's town functions that are essential versus things that we've been doing, like when Nicole was doing like the dark sky project, which that's not a requirement of a town. That was something nice to do. Are there other things that we're presently working on that we don't need to ask an I'm not talking to the mic, that we don't need to ask an interim to bridge the gap? Because I think there's going to be enough work for the interim to do, but I don't know that I understand what is essential and what is something that can wait.
Well, I think that I've been asking for a strategic plan for a couple of years now, especially, when I first got here, we had a pandemic. So, that was just kind of getting the town and staff and whatever else through that. You really need a strategic plan. You have a good land use code. I'm not saying there aren't things that could be tweaked. Even Nicole saw a couple things that she just was not going to have time to do. But I think you have a consultant that can identify those, but I would probably wait for those. So anything long-term, you have the Mill Street project. That's going to be long-term. You have, economic development. That's going to be long-term. You have, I think we've got our wastewater treatment facility that, we've got that updated using those ARPA funds. So we're there. Things in public works like, the reservoir. I think that may be something that even though Jeremy could handle it, I probably think that should be something that you have funded and just wait until you have a town manager. I've always wanted a CAFR. For the town of Bayfield. It's a comprehensive financial report in addition to the audit. That is something that, can wait. There's, the one thing that we really need to do is Cassell training. That, we're figuring out how to get a new utility clerk to go get some training. So there's a lot of training things that can be done basically to build that staff into so they're kind of ready to go.
Okay.
I'd ask it a different way. You reviewed this interim job description. Is there?
I'm sorry. I have just been slammed.
Oh, you
the
okay?
Last couple days, I haven't been able to get to anything.
That's all right. I understand.
Yeah.
When I review this interim, the only thing that I would want to modify is number 9. It says recruits, hires, supervises, and evaluates the town workforce. So I don't know that necessarily needs to be in there. Maybe just provide oversight with the HR aspect of it. But to me, going through this list, I feel like this is a pretty good comprehensive interim job description, and maybe the other board members need some time to look at it. But I do find that this is it covers the main key items that I feel probably you do, Katie, that needs oversight.
Well, you still want to be recruiting. I mean, you
Yeah.
may supporting the HR director to continue to recruit and fill
Yes.
positions. I think
Yeah.
that's,
And I'm not saying not recruit, but that kind of falls under the oversight of the town manager, but the HR director is operating in that capacity, if I understand correctly. Yeah?
they're operating in that, but you
Okay.
still want them to support that.
Yeah,
The last thing you want
absolutely.
is a interim to say, no, I don't want you to hire anybody or
Right,
recruit
right.
anybody.
No, I understand that. It just sounded more like an HR role specific. But however, that's fine. I know what you're saying.
Yeah,
The way I've always viewed it is HRO helps with doing the recruiting, but they are not the decision maker of who gets hired. Usually it's whoever is in charge of that department or that sort of thing. So I personally think we should leave that in there, for that reason.
I think it was evaluate that kind of caught me. How do you, but this is interim. The hope is that this is a position that maybe starts end of this year. I have no idea, and is in position for 3 months. I'm not sure that the staff all needs evaluations from someone who I think they would need more time in position to be able to evaluate the staff. But hiring, supervising, recruiting, I understand. Performance evaluation, performance improvement planning, I think that makes sense, but I don't know that they need to be providing evaluations.
Well, the only directors or the only employees that I do performance evaluations are for the directors, and they are all done this summer.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so moot point.
Well, I personally, going through this interim, there's nothing glaring to me that's missing. I guess I would, with Katie knowing what is on her plate right now, I think she's the only one who could speak to what might be missing in this interim job description. So I would kind of ask Katie to take a look at it and say, oof, boy, we need to make sure that this has oversight as an interim. And I just wouldn't know what that is.
Are there expectations of meetings that you're currently representing the town at that we need to also consider for this?
those that I mean, we can talk about the next couple months or the
Okay.
November and December, but yes, you would ask the interim basically just to represent the town if I was representing them,
Okay.
For that short period of time.
Marie, any other questions from us? Do we throw enough at you?
So I think what you're saying is the preference is for the actual interim job description from,
Michael can't hear you.
sorry. The preference is for the Eagle, to revise kind of the Eagle job description and kind of go over what you already talked about for qualifications and number of staff. So yes, I've took notes, so I think I can compile it together, then share it with Katie and then with you all.
Okay, that sounds good.
Okay.
And on that interim where it has 1 through 22, I think the same as the town manager job description, if we could kind of lump together things that are similar, administrative, financial, what have you. Do we need to maybe have something ready to roll, or would we be able to by the next meeting so we can provide the guidance for you to run with it?
I hope so. I
Okay.
hope this is something I can get to you by the end of the week.
Okay, good. Nope, I just wanted to understand expectations.
Thank you, though.
Anything else on the job description?
So let's maybe just ask something because end of the week, so Friday, and could we have a deadline that you're reviewing it? Could we make sure that it's Wednesday by noon that you've
Absolutely.
send everything that you do or don't like about it so that we're not guessing whether or not you reviewed it or like it or not?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody's okay with the job description?
Yep, I am.
Board action regarding interim town manager.
Do we need to make a motion?
Well, it sounds like you're not ready to make a motion until
Oh.
you have a draft, unless you want to make something.
Okay.
No, I think we should wait for the draft, don't you?
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't know what to make a motion on.
Right.
Board action regarding interim town manager.
So as you can probably understand, anybody that submits a resume is going to really want to know what you're going to compensate them for. They're going to want to know if you're going to provide housing because they're going to be here a short period of time. They're going to want to know if you're going to reimburse them for mileage if they're coming from, they've got to live in Durango or they're living in Ignacio or Aztec or wherever they may be living. Or they may be, 2 or 3 hours away. Those are things that you want to know. You're going to want to know what the days are that they're actually here at town hall. You're going to go through some holidays, so it may not be exactly 3 days or 4 days a week, but you've got to tell us what you want. Submittal requirements, the preference, you want a consultant, a contract, temporary, combination of both. Do you want a firm to fill that position? Those are our other options. I believe you have some interest. The preference, submittal requirements, the cover letter, resume, relocation information, start date, etc. If you get letters of interest and they can't start until February 2nd, those are things that you got to have to tell Marie what you want. Advertisement locations, we've identified some advertisement locations. The Durango Herald, I don't think, it's expensive. I don't think we've ever gotten anybody hired from that. Indeed, CML, the listservs that we're on, social media is also another thing if people are paying attention to our social media beyond the Bayfield area. When do you want a deadline? So these are all things that we felt very uncomfortable just bringing you a proposal, and that's why we consulted with Town Attorney Goldman, because we felt like you're going to have to kind of nail this down for us so we're not going the wrong direction.
So I have a question about the compensation. Marie, did you pull that from like CML, or where did this spread come from?
I think Katie took the numbers.
Yeah, I just thought that anywhere between $2,500 to $4,500 is probably fair. That doesn't include housing. That depends on how many days you want them here.
Okay.
And it really kind of depends. Are they an employee or a temporary employee, or are they contract? Because those are different. Then you're going to be paying more for contract typically versus, an employee. So.
Well, and it's pretty costly to make them an employee. I feel like a contracted agreement would be the appropriate way to go, personally. We don't have to take on all that additional cost as an employee to do. I think most interims would accept a contract, or, we would have a contract to negotiate with them, which I think would be great. Generally, my experience is with interims that they write a proposal based on the job description and present it and say, if you want me to be your interim town manager or whatever the role is, here are my expectations. And they kind of set that. We definitely should have parameters around that, so we know what we're framing it into. I think, this is kind of putting the cart before the horse situation, but we found ourselves in this ill-conceived position to begin with. So going to the budget and not just coming up with a random number, I know all of this is outside of the budget. So what do we need to know about the money we're going to be spending for this person to do the job? And I just feel like we need to know that. We need to know what account it's coming from, what kind of bandwidth we have in that account to compensate this individual to do the interim job. We have to have an interim. So again, here we are. But I think it would behoove us to know what is reasonable. I mean, reasonably, can we spend, $4,500 a month for an interim? I don't know.
Well, you have to tell us what you feel you want to start. We can't guess what you
Right.
want.
No, I understand that, but what would the budget bear? What account is this coming out
It'd
of?
be out of the general fund.
Okay.
And is there funds in 2024? Yes. But if it's $2,500, that's a completely different deal. If they're an employee, that's a completely different deal. If they're a consultant, that's a different deal.
Right.
If you're paying, if you got to tell us what you want,
Right.
so that we can tell you what approximately it's going to cost.
Right. No, I understand that, but do you get my general question?
Brenna?
Katie, if it's a consultant, is it out of a different fund than if it's an employee?
It's not out of a different fund. It's out of the general fund.
If it's an employee, but a temporary employee, are they eligible for benefits? I mean, are they?
Para, they are. It's a retirement. So when you go to work as a employee, even when I was an interim, I didn't really need the para at the time, and so when I was an employee, I received para. So those are all things that you've got to figure out. So in other words, for an employee that's here for 3 months, you're going to pay retirement. That's your cost. Of course, the employee also pays their share as well.
Well, you've also got taxes and all W-2s and all that kind of stuff, where if you went with an independent contractor,
They pay that.
they take care of all that.
Right.
I kind of think that might be in my opinion, I think that might be a better way
But
to
then
go.
you're looking at the $4,500 a week versus $2,500.
Right.
Katie, what did it look like when you were interim?
I don't even remember what
Okay.
it was.
No, I'm kind of curious because
Lot
we've had an interim before, so I'm
Right.
wondering what that is. I'm also wondering if you would consider being the interim. If we wanted to invite you to do that role and while we go through this process, because you are qualified and you know everything. So I don't want to say that's not an option.
I think that's a fantastic idea, if we were gonna do something like that, and if Katie was agreeable to it, I think that, having her group where she's mostly remote, she could potentially do that. I mean, I know, I think it was the last meeting or the meeting before, she was talking about how, when she was on vacation, she did a lot of the job remotely and had no issues doing it that way. So, I mean, I think it's a great idea if Katie's interested.
Boy, I would also agree to that. 100%. And you get to kind of set your parameters here.
I'm just saying
you-
it's an option.
Yeah.
I sprang
Yeah.
it on you. I'm sorry, but it would be nice if you could consider it and let us know if that is something that you would consider, so that it's something that we can think about. Because all of this work that's being put in front of us for an interim, I feel as if there's other things that we need to be focusing on hiring the town manager, not focusing on who is this interim person who none of the staff knows, that none of us know. I have no idea how much to pay them. Like, I don't know any of this stuff. I need someone to tell me this, and we're being told to figure it out, which is fine. But to me, the easy way to figure it out is if you are willing to do it, what does this look like for you?
Yeah.
And then we can just focus on the town manager part versus the interim, then the town manager. I don't know how successful an interim, if we have someone for 4 months in this position, is actually going to be, versus, because if we can hire someone by February, and if you stay, or March or April, and you stay until December, because I know that's on the packet somewhere. So just a thought.
I'm with Kat. I think we need a starting point of some kind of money, knowing, where we're getting this from. And I'm with Kat about knowing that really the starting point is what we can afford, because we just went from 2,500 to 4,500. Well, there's 3,000, 3,500, 4,000, 4,250. There's all kinds of numbers in between there. And we really don't have any inkling of where this fits. I think we're asking for the options, because I think we'd like to, I think we're all bending towards contract versus an employee. But as far as the other items and a breakdown of what it would cost for, contract versus employee, a breakdown of if we provided housing, just a minimal number for housing, just to use as a breakdown so we could see where it fit in the budget.
So you have to lead us. We're asking you to lead us. And I realize that's an uncomfortable spot that you're in, but that's what we're asking. We could put $100,000 in there. That's what it's going to cost you. It's likely going to cost you $100,000 in there. But if you don't lead us and tell us what you want, then all we're doing is guessing again. And so if you want somebody in here 2 days a week, that's going to be a lot different than 4 days a week. If you want them to work remote or not remote on the third day, all those things cost money. Rentals in this area are at least $2,500 a month.
I was just figuring that out. So if we did
those are all
3,500,
things you have to decide where you're going to go. I'm going to tell you very honestly, this is going to cost you a lot more money than you had budgeted for me.
right? Yep, it is.
So instead of Lori's question about what we can put off, instead of Lori's question of what we can put off, is there a way that we can look at what actually needs to be done on a weekly basis? Do you have a calendar of what you do so we can have an idea of, would that be able to be accomplished in 2 days of remote work or 3 days of remote work or no remote work?
I have been slammed for almost every day. The last payroll, I had over 120 hours in 2 weeks. I have been working my butt off. So I can just tell you what, it's going to take somebody that's going to be here at least 3 or 4 days a week. 3 will at least work as long as they're remote. But either way, you're the determining factor.
So right off the top, I've anticipated. Go ahead.
Do you think if they were to do 4 days where 3 were remote and 1 was in person, would that be sufficient to get the job done?
I'm not too sure I heard what you said. 4 remote, 1 in?
3 remote, 1 in.
Remote, 1 in person.
Well, don't forget that this person is not necessarily familiar with what goes on.
I want my question answered by Katie, please.
They're going to have to spend at least a good month with at least 3 days with the staff a week.
Okay.
Because keep in mind, you're equipping them with all the remote equipment, and you're asking them to drive from a certain place. So the thing is that your staff is going to want them in person for at least 3 days a week, at least the first month. And maybe I just need to look at my staff, because
Right.
At least. At least. I mean, we look to you every day, Katie. I contacted Katie 5 times today with things that Katie needs to be involved in.
Right.
And
It's
she
every
already
day.
knows what's
Every
going
single
on.
day, she needs
Yeah.
to be involved. A town manager is very important.
Well, I think an interim should be here at least 4 days a week. and can have 1 day remote. I mean, we're talking about maybe 3 months, 4, God forbid, at the most. So to me, we are talking about having an interim to stabilize the staff and the operations of town. So we need to not make it comfortable for the interim. We need to say, this is what we need. So I would say 4 days in, 1 day remote is an option. Just quick calculation, if we paid him $3,500 a week as a contractor, that's $14,000 a month. And then if we've got $2,500 a month in rent, that's $7,500 in 3 months. So I rounded up to $2,500 because if we're reimbursing them mileage, when I worked for Archuleta County for the director, he was an interim and he went home every weekend and we paid for him to drive from Pagosa to Grand Junction where he lived. That was the deal. So if you calculate in utilities for that rental property, reimbursing fuel, we're probably talking about $30,000 a month, just a ballpark figure. So we can set the standard that 4 days in-house, 1 day remote. That person, if they're traveling from their home and they want to go home on the weekends, that gives them 3 days. So to me, whether it's a Monday or a Friday, probably a Friday the way our hours are, that person could have a Friday as a remote day. So
I'm just looking at the bullet points on the agenda. Housing to be provided, are we looking at $2,500 a month?
I think that's a reasonable number.
And that, anything else, they're gonna have to pay utilities where they live somewhere else or here.
Right.
All right. Mileage to be reimbursed, how, 100 miles from here? 150 miles from here?
Well, how far is Grand Junction from Pagosa? I mean, I don't know what that would be, if they need to go home on the weekends like he did, or
If we're paying for housing at $2,500 a month, they can rent a place and stay here for that interim time frame.
right, but
I don't see that you need for mileage.
yeah, but that's not our choice. I mean,
So let's put it this way. If your $2,500 allowance, which would include housing and include mileage as well. So
Right.
they figure it out.
okay.
Right.
4 days in the office, 1 remote, except for holidays.
Yep.
Preference consultant is what I'm hearing, consultant contract.
Yes, please.
I just,
Yeah, contract.
I want to know what was the reason for that,
Reason for
What was the reason for what?
for a consultant versus an employee.
I think you're gonna pay all the benefits, including retirement, for an employee.
Right.
Right, and then they're responsible for their own insurance, their own
Everything.
everything.
Their car.
Then we just pay a flat rate and it's over with.
I agree.
I like that it's simplified that way.
Okay, submittal requirements, cover letter, resume, relocation information, start date. Are those, anything else you want to add to that? Are you comfortable with the advertisement locations?
One more time, you were going,
CML, Indeed, not the Durango Herald, social media. Corey said he would send it out to the special district listserv. We'll send it on other listservs that we have professional connections with.
I think that's
okay.
fine.
References, or is it upon request?
Do you want references?
I would like references.
I would like references.
I'm just with the list of things there.
How many references?
I would say 3. Yeah.
3?
3.
And professional, personal, or none of the above?
2 professional Oh, one person.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
That's good.
Deadline November 7th. I mean, we're,
Probably should expand that a little bit. We're like
Right there.
Yeah.
yeah, so like, November, not 11th, that's, Veterans Day, 12th?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
But
think that's,
if we do this, well, if we do the 7th, we may have a list to discuss at our, no, wait, that would be a planning commission meeting, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Our
I
next
mean,
meeting
is
we're
the
gonna look
19th.
at dates because you may be meeting, you're gonna be meeting a lot more.
right.
You want it the 7th? I planned to kind of have a meeting, but I hadn't got to the dates yet.
That gives us 2 weeks,
Almost.
almost.
2 weeks,
Well,
2
almost
days.
3.
Uh,
No,
no,
2.
yeah,
I'm
2,
sorry.
yeah.
I'm good with the 7th.
We can do that, the 7th, and then expand it if we need to.
By noon.
Yeah, that'd be
Sure.
great.
Board of Trustees commitment to review, interview, and action to dates. So, will you be available on the evening of the 7th? It's a Thursday night to have a meeting at 6:30.
Yes.
Yes.
I will not.
Stand by. Checking my calendar. I do not know.
Will you be? Can you be virtual?
Yes. I can be virtual.
I can make that work.
So then I was also looking at the 14th as another meeting, seeing as we're talking about dates, because the 7th, the 14th, you may want to have that interview day on the
Yeah.
14th.
That's fine for me.
Now, 14th, they have a park committee here, but I'll make sure they wrap it up early.
Okay, that works for me.
What's the 14th?
It's a Thursday.
I can make both Thursdays work.
Okay.
Make it the 13th?
I can too.
I could.
And
Do
then
the
your
13th.
next meeting would be the 19th, which, we'll make sure that we add anything that we've missed, the 7th and 14th. All right, so, did everybody hear that? We got 7th, 14th, and 21st. Or not 21st, the 19th, sorry. Although HR will coordinate and full board with certain officials present, what board member will lead the interview? So, granted, I know that, the mayor can lead that, but there are going to be certain questions that you're going to have that review with Marie to make sure you're not asking questions you shouldn't legally. Is there, I'm looking at you, sir, but if you feel like you would like somebody else to lead that, you're still going to be here, all at the dais.
I'm fine leading it.
Okay, so if you'll just schedule with Marie in advance, so you're going over questions and making sure you're avoiding anything that would get you in trouble.
So I know the last time we did questions in this way, we actually came up with our own questions, and then we did like a roundhouse where one person would ask a question. That way everybody could participate. Can we do that again?
You can do that, but I think the questions need to be sent to Marie probably
I'm not denying that at all.
by the first, so at least we have time to review them. She has the time to send them back to you. So can you put the deadline of November 1st as your date? It's a Friday, noon. Before noon would be great.
Okay.
And then, if you don't mind, Marie may have a couple other questions just to make sure that she gets that in. Would the staff like to ask questions or send questions to Marie?
I think that would be great.
We all have a deadline.
So what date do you want that in by noon? What date was that?
November 1st.
Okay, great. I just want to make sure I had it on my calendar.
All right. Now we're going to go back to the compensation. 4 days in, $2,500 a month for mileage and, you know, whatever mileage they have, whatever living expenses they need, no more than that. So 2,500 to 4,500. Do you just want us to leave that range out there and have the consultant give you their, it's better to have a range than just say, just whatever.
Yeah, I think that range is
Yeah.
great.
I like the
Yeah.
range too.
I like the range, but I think going up to 4,500 per week is high. When I just do a Google search on interim city manager in Colorado, it goes to 1,800 a week. And I know that we need to pay more than that for someone who's in an interim position, but 4,500 seems really, really high considering the average interim. I'm getting it from 3 different sites. It's probably all the same information, but it just seems high to me. Considering we're asking for bachelor's degrees and 5 years experience, like if we're asking for that level of education and that level of experience, and we're going to pay someone they're going to ask for $4,500. Like, yes, I think I would pay Katie $4,500 a week. I'm not sure I'm going to pay someone I don't know who's going to have to then integrate with our staff that we don't know for 3 months. It just seems high.
So give me
I
a top.
agree.
Give me a top.
Brenna, go ahead.
I want to make comments on that because we're not paying the benefits, so
Right.
that has to be considered. And when you're doing a consultant, they do get paid more than you would get paid if you were an interim that was an employee or an employee.
Right,
So we have to take that into consideration as well.
right. And I think we want a qualified candidate.
4,500 is too high.
Well, it depends, you know,
I
based
would
on
range
what
it
we
to
get.
3,500 and
agree.
or best offer. I don't know, where everything else is, or this is preferred, so.
I think 45 's too
3,500.
high.
If they really need more, they'll ask for it, and if
Justify it.
it'll be justified because they can ask for it.
Yeah.
So
35.
25 to 35. That's what I'm asking.
No. Nope.
No. Do you want to make a motion towards that effect?
Do you think I wrote all that down?
Well, I
don't
did.
have a pen.
She's got it.
So you have some blanks in there. So authorize 2,500 to 3,500 for compensation. To the interim town manager, provide $2,500 for housing, including mileage, with the exception the interim is at town halls 4 days a week, 1 day remote, and available on call. Do you want any on call after that?
Yeah,
On call, just on call, period.
Yes.
just on call, just right.
Okay, the board prefers a consultant,
Yep.
right? To submit a cover letter, resume, relocation start date, and references, 3 references. 2 professional, 1 personal. By November 7th at noon. And furthermore, the Board of Trustees have reviewed their calendars and action with November 7th, November 14th, and November 19th, because that's your regular meeting.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to authorize 2,500 to 3,500 compensation weekly to the interim town manager, provide $2,500 for housing, which includes mileage, with the expectation that the interim is in the town hall for 4 days a week, 1 day remote, and is available on call. The board prefers a consultant to submit a cover letter, resume, relocation information, 3 references, which 2 are professional, 1 is personal, and the start date to be, what do we decide on?
You're just asking them for a start date.
Okay, all right. As advertised at the following locations, let's see, and then I didn't get that. CML, Indeed, and listservs. on or before noon of November 7th. Furthermore, the members of the Board of Trustees have reviewed calendars for available meeting dates and times and are committed to be present either in person or virtual to participate in interim proposal review, interview, and action with the dates of 11/7, 11/14, and 11/19 of 2024. As a member that is cognizant of laws regarding hiring, will coordinate with HR Director Kim and lead the interviews with board members and certain officials in attendance.
I second that.
I got a motion in a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Katsas,
Yes.
Trustee Hartz,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin,
Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes.
Okay, I have one question for you. For the November 7th date, when we get together to review resumes, do you want me to bring every single applicant to you so you can go through them? Or would someone like to sit with me so we can pre-screen them and bring you, the top 10? What's your preference?
I would be willing to pre-screen them if that would save us time and benefit of that. Otherwise, I'm open to either or.
Yeah, I'd be willing to pre-screen so that we are not going through.
Perfect.
So we just jinxed it, so we're only going to have like 2, but
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if we're going to have 3 pre-screenings, shouldn't we just do it at the meeting then? 'Cause, I mean, I'd like to see them, all of them. And I don't know if we necessarily have to make another appointment.
So you're going to be virtual, is that correct?
On the
You said
7th.
that you're going to be virtual, so we would be sending those to you probably anyway.
The ones that were pre-screened.
No, basically, she could send all of them to you.
Right.
Because, I mean, you would be virtual. The same thing we would probably send, to anybody else.
Just so everybody gets all of them.
There could be, we don't know, but there could be 100 applicants. So
could.
if we do get that, that's my question. Am I emailing you 100,
Oh, of course not.
10-page documents?
Yeah.
I don't either.
Trust our HR person to pre-screen them.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah.
You can do it.
Yeah.
Having her pre-screen them.
Okay, so pre-screened to bring you maybe the top 4, top 3.
Yeah.
You're going to get some that aren't meeting our requirements. So
I go top 5.
Top
Top
5.
5?
Top 5, I think, too.
All right.
If
And
you get that
then
many.
Is there, we can still have 2 trustees that pre-screen with.
it sounds like that's not the desire of all the
That's
boards.
that's
so
the desire of the board. It's got to be the desire of the board.
I trust that our HR director can take care of this, and if she needs assistance, she can reach out.
Yeah. I would
Okay,
agree.
that sounds good.
No, we can't hear you. Brenna?
I said, I trust our HR person, I think, sorry, my voice is starting to go up. I trust our HR person, and I think she can just do it. We don't need to pre-screen it, the board doesn't need to be that involved.
Okay.
Good? Marie?
Yes.
KRW Associates Contract.
So I do know that you're going to have to kind of look at your, Thanksgiving is the 28th of the month in November. So my question is, can we look at dates that you may have to meet with KRW separate?
So I did talk to KRW. I talked to Lynn Johnson. and kind of asked him, what are we really looking at for the next month, 2 months? And so he suggested he is available the week of November 11th and or the week of November 18th. And what he would like to do is to do remote interviews with actually each of the board members. So instead of having a group meeting with all of you, to actually meet with you individually remotely. So we don't essentially have to have another meeting for that. Now, he would like to still come down, potentially, be here 2 days to meet with staff, to talk to staff as well, and then kind of put that whole big picture together of putting that job description and goals and everything. He has it outlined in the contract, but putting that all together. So I guess my question to you would be, is there, if we had to do a meeting, the week of the 11th or 18th, is there a date that works for you? But know that his preference is to do the virtual meetings with you individually. And so you would just schedule that with him.
I'm okay doing it remotely with him. That would work for me.
Okay.
Me too.
Do you want to do the week of the 18th since there's no holiday there to give more options since we don't know what Trustee Nyberg's schedule is?
Okay. So a potential 21st, a Wednesday, Thursday.
I can make a lot work, except for probably Tuesdays. So
Okay.
he could just reach out to me any one of those days, and we can find a time that'll work.
Okay.
I'd prefer not the 21st because it's my wedding anniversary and I'm already getting stuck doing day job stuff. So the 20th would be my preference for a virtual check-in.
Yep.
Hopefully not at 6:30.
Well, and he could probably do it during the day too.
Okay.
So if
That-
it works
that
for
would be-
your schedule.
Oh, I'll make it work.
21st works
So I'm
better.
good during the day as long as we schedule it soon, because my schedule fills up fast. So right now, I'm okay because we're far enough away, but as we get closer, it's going to fill up. So I got to get them on schedule quick, but I should be good either of those days.
Sounds like you should get him in touch with Brenna first.
And is he coming in December for a 2-day? Does he have any nailed down any dates or January?
Nope, not yet. He said just going over job description, what that looks like, because then he'll post in December and or January. So, and then after that point,
Will he meet with the whole board?
well, that's what he wanted to do, is to meet with them individually instead of the whole board.
Okay, so the advertisement will come out with their individual. Okay, that's fine.
Did you get mine? 21st?
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm good with the 19th.
Kat, you said any?
Yeah, except for Tuesday. Tuesday was a bad day for me, but any other day I can work around my schedule.
And Laura?
I'm pretty flexible.
Okay.
I work around whatever.
Thank you. All right, so we'll be in touch about that.
So does that take care of everything under the
So
KR?
we have Town Attorney Goldman sent you a termination clause inserted along the lines set forth below. So I just want to make sure that you're okay with that termination clause that he's provided, and I stapled it in my notes too, I think.
Yeah, I like the termination clause. There was also something about when they get paid as well, the consultant.
Yeah, so
I
If I may, Mayor, at this point, if I remember correctly, at the last meeting, the board gave signature authority for this contract and to negotiate the contract. I just wanted to send that around to the board in the event the board had any additional thoughts or felt that this was okay overall. And my suggestion is that we include those two items at a minimum and send it back to KRW to get this thing buttoned up.
I agree.
Yeah, I'm good with them.
I'm good.
Yep.
So could you just make a motion to that effect?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to include in the KRW contract the termination clause that was provided by Town Attorney Goldman, the termination clause and the payment clause.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Katzos,
Yes.
Trustee Hartz,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland, Trustee McLaurin,
Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes. Town Manager Sickles' resignation letter.
Do we need to finish up with the other items in the contract line item?
Which one did I miss?
HR director, a primary contact, board to be prepared to meet with these folks, and board of trustees commitment to review, interview, and action.
Thought we did already.
I just wanted to make sure that there was nothing else there, that we didn't skip it.
I thought we covered them.
I think you covered it.
Okay.
I have dates, and she has your virtual week, so.
One
that's what
question, sorry.
Okay.
One question would be, again, Mayor, are you my contact, you know, for scheduling things for here on out, or is it somebody else? As we later on get in interviews and things like that, you the contact, or would you like someone else to
As far
coordinate
as
that?
setting up the interviews,
Well, I can set them up, but just kind of coordinate with the board.
You have to wrangle the cats.
yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah,
Okay.
we can work that out.
Okay, I'm good.
Anything else? Town Manager Sickles' resignation letter.
So I would like,
The first one says November 13th,
Mhm.
they extended to November 15th. I
Yep.
don't think any one of us is going to say no to that.
correct.
Is that you offering to extend that?
Yes.
I think that's great.
I think the second one's fine too, remote work mid-November to December 27, PTO will do it non-work time.
I agree.
Me too.
Well, unless if we have an intern by then.
Well, I think
But she's still going to help the intern.
Right.
acclimate. So she's not just going to like disappear and the intern is like trying to figure out what they're doing. It's-
Right.
Yeah.
Well, an intern should be able to just take right over.
Yeah, but they still need to know what's going on, and having somebody who knows what they're doing and has been doing it for years to help hold their hand for a couple weeks is not unheard of.
Well, and it benefits the staff to feel like she's handed off all the pertinent information that this individual is going to need. So I mean, I've never worked unless somebody was fired from their job. I've never worked where you didn't have, you know, at least somebody there to answer questions, provide guidance, I mean, it's a given. And
Especially at this level, when you're talking about
Right.
town managers that's running an entire town, you need to have that handoff like that.
I think you're optimistic that we're going to have an interim
I
in
know.
place by then.
it's the holidays, and who knows? Yep. So I'm okay with number 2.
Yeah, I'm fine with, I'm happy to have the offer.
So are
Me
we
too.
paying you for the non-PTO time? So any time that you're working, any hours, are we still paying you those hours?
Yep.
So just like I did when I was in North Carolina, I worked a certain amount of hours and just backfilled it with PTO.
Right. And I like number 3. If scheduled in advance, I think that's fair. We'll be in the office mid-November to December 27th.
Yeah, I'm fine with that too. I'm fine with all of it.
Yep.
I've been in several positions where there's been a change of leadership, and that leader has had to be, they're paid through the end of the month, or they're paid for their 2 weeks, but they're released immediately for security purposes or client relation purposes. There's a variety of reasons. So I'm not and we are going to get an interim that knows what they're doing. I mean, we're asking for quite a lot for what we're giving. So I just feel like this is a transition for the staff too, and we need to keep a balance between supporting the staff and moving through the transition.
She's not working 40 hours. So
No, I know, but that's a long transition.
proposing to do is to help through the transition. She's not saying, I'm gonna work a 40-hour week. She's saying, I'm available to help in the interim if it's needed. And to be quite honest, I don't know why we are saying we wouldn't want that, or even bringing up, we would just let her go at this point. You have to have some sort of transference when you're at this level of a job. You can't just let somebody walk in the line. It is not a smart thing to do. That does not support staff at all. I can't even say how important this is, that she helps hold the hand of the person coming in. It is vital.
I agree with that 100%.
And I say, based on the amount of representation we had at previous meetings of folks who are residents of the town that we represent, that wanted Katie to be in this position, I don't see why, if she's offering to continue on, that we say, no, we don't want you to. But I guess we can put it to a vote.
I think it's generous that Katie's willing to work with us all the way through this, and because I think if I were to guess, Katie's putting her staff above everything else and saying it's more important to me that my staff has the support and the comfort that they're being looked out for, so they can just focus on their job. This is already stressful enough. So if Katie's willing to do it, I'm in full support of that. And I recognize that the staff would appreciate that. And so, to me, for me, it's a non-negotiable thing. So you have my vote right there.
So do you need a motion?
I believe that it would be in the best practice because there may be a difference of opinion to have a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept the town manager Sickles' resignation letter D in our agenda and the items listed below.
I'll second.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
The resignation letter and Ms. statement that she would work till the 15th. I think that's also, should be part of the motion, whether it's the 13th or the 15th.
Yeah, that's in D, it's the first item line in office, November 13th can be extended to November 15th. So my motion was saying all of those items that are bullet pointed under D of the agenda.
Including an extension to November 15th, right, Brenna?
Yeah, it's on there.
It says can, it wasn't definitive.
Oh, okay, definitively then, to November 15th. Sorry, I am not really well.
I still second that.
I got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Katzos,
Yes.
Trustee Harts,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin,
Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes. And then, line item E, a backup plan.
Would that be Katie's consideration and then a proposal?
So I think the backup plan is if this goes on, you may remember that for a police chief, we had a advertisement, we interviewed, and then we interviewed a second time. So we went back out, went back to the candidates, and so it went from a January hire to a May hire. So, your backup plan may be, that you want to make sure that you are covered for a certain period of time, and I just need for you to be aware of that you may have to have a backup plan, and I know this is, I appreciate you coming to an extra meeting to do this so that we're clear on which direction we want to go, but if you have any ideas of a backup plan, community development, right now we have SEH. They're coming in on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those are working really well. We've got some, staff changes, some staff challenges as well that we're still trying to work through. So we certainly hope that you're all ready for the budget. We have some changes that we'd like for the board to consider that in addition to the budget that was presented, just because we're all feeling the pinch. I'm going to look at, everybody that just is really working their butt off. And
So a backup.
I would actually like to really consider, and I'm asking the board this, to present an offer to Katie as an interim. I really think she would be the best person for it. I think if we come to her with an offer, then she can make a better decision than just the side remarks that we'd like to have her do it. I think we should have an actual offer sent to her.
I would entertain that.
Are you interested in that?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I asked if she was interested in that.
so, I have absolutely loved this community. My husband loved this community until, it just seemed like that I was under attack. I'm more than happy because I really love this staff and I want to support this community through this transition. I would be interested, but it's really got to be the desire of the board and not just one or two or myself.
Fantastic. So let's think about what we want to offer her, because with what she's been through, she's already sold her home, so this is kind of putting her out a little bit. I would like to make her some sort of bonus in addition to what she currently earns, and something that would be comparable to what an intern would be, but keep her on our employment so that she can still earn medical or any of those other things that she currently has. I know she gets a vehicle stipend, and I would also want that to stay in there. So maybe for current employment with a bonus. What do you guys think? Ethan?
I like it.
I like it.
I
I'm in agreement.
I'm looking at it from the same standpoint that if it's an interim, I would still rather prefer the contract.
Right, I'm not saying that, well, I think it'd just be easier to keep her on there and give her a bonus.
I agree. You're still looking for a new town manager. I mean, they're doing that. This would be for the interim position. Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. I think it
So
would
you're
make a lot
saying-
smoother for everybody.
Keep all the benefits and a bonus.
Yes. Yep.
Now, remember, we would be paying out a lot to have anybody else come in.
Correct.
Advertising, word, everything like that. So I'm thinking what kind of bonus do you guys think? I'm gonna throw a number out there, 5,000 a month?
Again, like, we're just pulling a number out. We
Yeah.
don't know where it fits in the budget at all. I am a little concerned about that.
Well, we should have thought about that before we started this whole march down this path.
Okay, but we're here.
I understand that,
We're
but
here.
the point
So-
of the matter is that we are here, and now we're trying to shore it up. So, in my opinion, I think, if this board again can show their support for this and come up with a bonus that feels, right and appropriate, and if Katie's willing to entertain that, I don't want to put Katie on the spot right at this moment. I would like for us to maybe put together an offer, contract offer, and then let her have an opportunity to consider.
So what I'd like to do is actually put a motion on the board.
Okay.
Consensus before I do that.
Yep.
To find out what other people's thoughts are on the amount of the bonus, and I plan to make a motion.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't vote on the bonus without looking at the budget. So
Well,
I couldn't give an affirmative vote without looking at the budget.
You just voted for like practically a lot.
yes, about $30,000 a month.
So
Yes, I,
that's why that's different than this right here.
Yeah.
So, you're gonna spend the money regardless. Now, are you gonna spend the money with Katie, who knows our town, loves our town, does an excellent job? Or are you going to choose an unknown factor? And I'm sorry, I'd rather choose the known factor than the unknown factor.
I'm following you, Brenna. I'm all right with $5,000 a month. I mean, if we do the math, we're saving money. I mean, right off the top, based on my quick math.
I'm fine with it too, but I'm understanding where Alexis or Trustee Hart's is coming from. So maybe in case this goes on for the entirety of next year, do we have a time where we revisit this?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so, okay, well, that's where I'm trying to see how we can get the whole board on board without really looking at the numbers right now. So, if we move forward with this path, I do think that $5,000 a month is less than the $30,000 per month that we were looking at. So we would have to have budgeted for more. So I think it'll work. However, this process could take the entirety of 2025. So maybe we need to do a little revisit because I think that would be appropriate in case we can't find a town manager that we agree upon through the KRW, thank you, process. So I think that would be responsible, and I think it might meet the needs of others on the board.
I suggest, folks, that I think there's some good direction that the board perhaps is giving suggest that you allow some negotiation to take place. Your town manager is now privy to some information with regards to what the board's willing to do, but allow your HR director, your town manager, your town attorney to perhaps negotiate a interim contract with your town manager and bring that back before the board, perhaps at the next meeting. So you're not negotiating on the fly. In fact, you're not really negotiating. You're just openly throwing out numbers without really negotiating at all.
We're coming up with a backup plan on the fly. Come on. It's an agenda item.
I applaud you guys for trying to work through this relatively quickly, but I think that perhaps you need to take a bit of a deep breath.
All right. So how about this, Attorney Goldman? I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to have Attorney Goldman and Marie enter into negotiations with Town Manager Katie Sickles to fulfill the interim position of Town Manager.
I like that. I'll second that.
So we're negotiating, we're not bringing it.
There's no decisions.
Perfect.
Saying we're gonna enter negotiations.
Perfect, yes.
I got a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Katzos,
Yes.
Trustee Hartz,
Yes.
Trustee Cesaro,
Yes.
Trustee Moreland,
Yes.
Trustee McLaurin,
Yes.
and Mayor Ah.
Yes. Anything else anyone wants to discuss while we're here?
We'll have you can talk to town attorney Paul.
I don't have anything.
Okay. Going to adjourn this meeting at 8:15.
Thanks, Michael.
Thanks so much, board, town manager, HR. You guys are great.
Thank you.
That really throws me, though.
I think that's pretty.
Yes. I mean, if you're just jumping around, I mean, unless
That
there,
seems weird to me.
is there a market for that? I don't know, there could be. Well, think about it.
Yeah, maybe.
There could be, because think about, there's many municipalities that have city and town